Hello and welcome to this episode of LSC. From carvings depicting strange beings to structures that seem to defy explanation, there are many instances that seem to indicate that extraterrestrials have been visiting Earth. Here are just 10 fascinating examples from the ancient world.
Number 1.
Alexander the Great. Starting at the dawn of recorded history, Alexander the Great and his troops reportedly had an alien encounter that was out of this world. This encounter may have changed the world as we know it today. When Alexander was invading India and crossing the Indus River, his troops were buzzed by flying silver shields in the sky. You know, you've heard of the flying discs. Well, this may very well be the original sighting of the saucer shape or flying disc. Now, this action and this sight from above caused great panic and confusion within the ranks of Alexander's army. It stampeded, and the war elephants were terrifying, and they terrified their own troops, stampeding over them. And then the troops, the elephants, the animals involved, the horses, everything, started to flee immediately. Historians who accompanied the army to record their great deeds and documented every aspect of their campaigns also documented these flying silver shields. These flying silver shields dove into the Indus River and then came flying back out again. At this point, Alexander's army was in shambles. His army was so shooken up that most of his soldiers refused to go any further east because of these flying shields. Afraid of this, many of his soldiers actually mutinied against him whenever he would force them to push on further east. Now, eventually, Alexander did have to give in to his troops because he knew that if he couldn't get his troops to march any further because they were afraid of these flying discs, these flying shields, that he knew that it was a lost cause going any further. So rather than suffer mutiny on his hands, he decided to turn back. Now, you would think that that was the only encounter, and that would be pretty rare, right? However, it wasn't. So, Alexander's historians recorded another encounter with these flying shields. As the Alexander's army was attacking the city of Tyre, the walls were quite large and quite strong. So they were trying to siege the city. All of a sudden, the flying shields that came in, they buzzed over top of them. As they flew over, they aimed what seemed like some sort of beam of light at the walls, and the walls crumbled right in front of the whole army, obviously allowing Alexander to come in and take the city. So I guess in that case, his sky friends was able to help him out in taking the city of Tyre, which is located in current day Lebanon.
Number 2.
This next one coming up here is titled The Golden Birds. This time coming out of South America in the ancient city of El Dorado, in the pre-Columbian civilization of the Tolima. Archaeologists discovered gold figures in the shape of UFOs. Now, these golden figures were first mistaken for stylized bird models. Scientists quickly changed their assessment once it was discovered that nothing in nature actually had anything in common with these figures. Shaped like a triangle with wings sticking up and wings spread horizontally, these figures were carved out of gold. In 1997, a motorized model 27 times larger than the figure was built to test whether it was actually a flying craft or not. As it turned out, it actually worked. Now, this was able to prove that the figures carved from gold thousands of years ago were depictions of flying objects. Now, since no civilization on the planet had yet discovered the principles of aerodynamics or had built any flying craft, many believers claim that these golden figures are of aliens who visited long ago.
Number 3.
Next up is Fingerprints of the Gods. British researcher Graham Hancock had written extensively about ancient maps that depict Earth as it existed before the Ice Age. He believes that these maps were given to them by visitors from off-world who have been watching our planet for millennia. The maps were first discovered a few thousand years ago by people we would deem as ancient by our standards. The maps have since been substantiated by modern scientific discoveries showing that the world depicted on the maps and described by ancient archaeologists are actually accurate.
Number 4.
Next up, we have biblical encounters. Jonathan Young, the founder and curator of the Joseph Campbell Archives, a biblical scholar, believes the Bible's book Ezekiel describes an extraterrestrial encounter, described as two flying discs and wheels within wheels, powered by fiery angels. It certainly sounds like a mechanical contraption. A being came out wearing a bright metallic outfit and had many faces with many tubes who tasked Ezekiel with crafting a building as a testament to the glory of God. That doesn't sound like an alien encounter. I don't know. Now, Joseph Blumberg, a rocket scientist who worked on the moon landing for NASA, was a skeptic. He originally set out to refute the idea that the Bible contains mention of a spacecraft. However, during his research, he became convinced that it is true and is now one of the proponents for this theory. Bloomberg went on to write a book called The Spaceships of Ezekiel.
Number 5.
Next up, we have alien pyramids. Structural engineer Christopher Dunn studies the ancient pyramids of the world, including one of the most impressive at Giza. Specifically, how perfect the angles of the granite blocks are. You see, granite is extremely difficult to cut without diamond-tipped tools, for example. Dunn believes the angles used on the granite boxes used to house the tombs of long-ago kings are within 0.00002 of a tenth of 2,000th of an inch. A level of precision that is impossible to believe that it was achieved without the aid of engineering and specialized tools of the modern era. Giza Plateau is the site of the 3 pyramids constructed using 2.5 million blocks. Scientists and engineers are still unable to fathom how these blocks were moved and lifted into place thousands of kilometers in distance. Many believe that our ancestors had extraterrestrial assistance.
Number 6.
Next up, we have Pumapu, which means the cougar door. It is located in western Bolivia and is part of a temple complex carbon dating back to 536 AD. Now, the monuments have extremely intricate carvings, including corner carvings on blocks that weigh 20 tons each. Even computer systems today couldn't figure out how to cut these things, says Philip Coppens. These angles have mathematical concepts that even we don't use with computers in the modern day. Even today, if you press your finger into the corners, you're liable to cut yourself as the stone has retained their sharp edge over the years. Modern day stonemasons would use CNC machines to obtain such intricate results. But even those wouldn't be as precise as the results obtained by our ancient ancestors. The question remains, how did they do it? Perhaps they had help from outer-worldly beings. If not, from whom did they obtain the knowledge that surpasses our own modern-day knowledge?
Number 7.
Next up, we have the Zor. The Zor is a Jewish text that contains commentaries on the Torah and formed the basis for the Kabbalah. After Moses freed the Jewish people from slavery, they were sentenced to wander in the desert for 40 years. Yet, God provided food in the form of manna to people as they trudged through the wasteland. In the Zohar text, the manna was said to come from a machine that was powered by the Ancient of Days, which translated to God. The manna machine was described as having many brains, many faces, and many cubes, and many sources of light connected to one another. Several diagrams accompanied the text and appeared undeniably machine-like. Many scholars believe they had alien help. How else to explain the presence of machinery that exceeds our modern technology and without any form of influence? How could they draw diagrams working? And without any form of influence, how could these people draw diagrams showing working machines presumably from the future? That's some food for thought.
Number 8.
Next up, the Solomon Islands. The Solomon Islands, located near the Guadalcanal, has been the site of mystery and paranormal sightings going back hundreds of years. Our ancient ancestors had no frame of reference, so their descriptions of the beings they encountered are unusual. However, the reports of sightings of alien spacecraft have continued unabated and continuously since before written history, and reaching back to oral history. There have been innumerable sightings of otherworldly craft flying in and out of the ocean around the area, and also vanishing into remote mountain lakes on the island. Locals describe seeing lights not only in the sky, but also in the ocean. Lights and spacecraft have been reported flying into and out of the island's volcanoes and mountains. Fishermen working in the area have also reported the phenomenon for hundreds of years.
Number 9.
This next one happens during the War of 1812. Over 200 years ago, the British Army invaded the newly established United States during what became known as the War of 1812. 2 years into the war, the British forces were poised to invade Washington, D.C., and on a particularly hot summer day, their intention was to burn it down, starting with the White House. In an instant, out of a clear and cloudless blue sky, storm clouds gathered, and a deluge of rain soaked the area, ending any thoughts of lighting fires. Additionally, a tornado appeared and made a path directly towards the British troops, forcing them to retreat. It all appeared to be the act of great good fortune for the American troops. That the changes that appeared out of nowhere and occurred so suddenly that there was no earthly way for them to come about. Some even claim that they had seen alien aircraft among the clouds right before it all happened.
Number 10.
Next up, we have the Alaskan Dark Pyramid. Bet you didn't know there were pyramids in Alaska. First publicly theorized by paranormal science specialist and scientist Linda Moldhau in August 2012. The discovery of a dark pyramid buried under Alaska's tundra has been made. Now, no one seems to know where it has come from or how it works. No one can say for sure who built it and who buried it. It is 150 feet below the surface. To reach the pyramid, vertex and extends down to 750 feet to reach the base. Current theory theorizes that all of Earth's stone pyramids are or were at one time used to generate electricity. Dr. Michael Salla, an archaeologist and author, explains that extensive research has been carried out on the world's pyramids, and one of the main theories regards their structure and purpose is that of a power generator. Placing pyramids in strategic locations across the world would allow wireless transmission of energy. Now, if you like this video, please give that thumbs up, a like. There really helps out with the algorithm and everything. And if you want to see more of these videos, please hit that red subscribe button down below. And remember to turn on the bell notification so that you never miss any of our content in the future. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video.